this is Frank from Frank Design. I'm going to take you through the process of installing some quick jack releases. Get the camper up off the ground. You could do this in the back of your truck, or you could just put it on a dolly, but you want it so it can sit alone without having any weight on the jacks. All right, next step, we're just going to take off the camper jack. So I just like to use a impact driver and a wrench. Stick that on there and take them off real quick. We're going to gather up our hardware. We need 3 bolts, 6 shims, 3 spacers, and 3 nuts, and then the plate that holds it all together on there. All right, for this part, I got a little trick to do this and make it to go together really nice and slick. First step, I just pick this up. We want to load the parts onto this plate. Take your first bolt, put it in the top one. Keep in mind, this notch needs to go to the top inside of the camper, so you're going to have this on that side, whatever you're going on. Pick up 2 spacers or 2 shims, put those on first, put your spacer on there, so we got the first bolt hole filled up. Next one, load the second bolt on there, kind of keep it held on with your hand. Put 2 shims on, add your spacer, and then finally you're going to add the third bolt, which I just kind of hold on with my forearm like so. Put on your 2 shims, put on your spacer, grab your nuts with this hand, and then kind of balance all those in there and then head over to the camper. For the camper, I have all this stuff kind of held on there loosely, just keeping one in with my finger and the other one with my other hand. So I'm just going to line up the bottom one, drop on the rest of them, and then hold that on there and just start the nuts on the back side. Real quick. And that keeps everything from falling out. Doing it this way is just a lot easier than trying to put in one at a time, because you just drop stuff everywhere. And like I said earlier, you want to have this notch to the inside, upper side of the camper. Next up, we're just going to tighten these up. We don't want to tighten them up all the way, we're just going to tighten them up a little bit loose. So take your wrench, tighten those up. Like I said, you don't want them really tight, you just want them enough so they're snug, but they still move just a little bit, like so. And the reason for that is we want to be able to adjust this later to make it so it slides apart and together really easy. Just a little bit of play in there. If you torque these up now, this quick jack release probably won't come apart quite as good. All right, for the next step, we are going to add the bracket onto the jack itself. A couple points on here. We're going to reuse the hardware that was on the camper before, so you want to inspect this to make sure it's okay. Always make sure it's a grade 5 bolt. That would be one that has 3 markings on the top. If it only has no markings, don't use it. If it has a lot more markings, you're also okay to use it, but just make sure they're all right. You don't want stripped out threads or anything. Just if they are bad, just go get some new ones at the hardware store. You don't want to risk losing your jacks or anything or breaking a bolt. All right, for the first step, I like to put this on here and kind of look at how it goes. You want these notches to be facing towards the upside of the jack, and I usually feed these in so the bracket's on the back side. So all you see when you're looking at the back or the front is the bracket and not this bracket this way. It really doesn't make a difference. It just looks nicer if you're looking at it from the back or the front. So just feed the bolts through. I use one of the washers, not totally necessary. Put that on the back side, and then grab one of those nuts that you had left over. Put it on there. I do like to use nylock nuts just because they don't loosen up quite as bad. Grab your impact driver, just stick that on there and tighten her up. So we bring the jack over to the camper and we're just going to line that up, slip it on in, and then just crank this up by hand. Now you want to raise this up not so it lifts up the whole camper, but just enough to engage these parts together so they slide together really nice and align everything. Once you have that, we're just going to go ahead and tighten up these bolts and make sure everything's snug together. Our next step is to drill the hole for the pin. My favorite way to do this is just to use a 3/8 drill bit. Use the pinhole as a pilot, and then this puts like a nice center mark to start the smaller drill. So the first thing we're going to do is just take this and go ahead and drill a pilot hole or a center drill. So we have our center drill set in there. We're just going to go with the smaller drill just to put it all the way through. This one's about 7/32, but you could use a 1/4 inch or 3/16 or whatever you have. This is just enough to get the hole nice started for you. So just get that lined up and push it on through. And we come back with the 3/8 drill and ream the hole out the rest of the way. All right, one thing I wanted to point out on these is there are some other quick jack release brackets out there. And the big difference between mine and some of the other ones is that I have 3 bolts that hold it to the camper. Some of the other ones just use this middle bolt as a pin, which is really nice because you don't have to drill a hole, because drilling the hole is probably the worst part about the whole thing. But what it does is it loses the strength of that 3rd bolt. And I can tell you from doing testing in SolidWorks and finite element analysis in SolidWorks that this bottom area is kind of weak, and it will work fine for the short term and for normal use. But if you ever have a special case or extreme situation where some of the weight is almost all the weight would happen to be on this one jack, it may fail over here, and you could have a catastrophic failure of your jack and have a bunch of issues that come after that. So I would suggest always using 3 bolts in your camper quick jack releases, just to keep it safe and do it just like the manufacturers of the jack and the camper intended it to be. Once we have those holes drilled, we're going to go ahead and insert the pin. This pin is a quick release detent pin, which does not come with the kit. The kit comes with a clevis pin. You can switch out to these if you don't like the clevis pin, but I kind of prefer these. So just shove that in, you got the pin in. Okay, once you have your pin in, you're gonna remove the tension of the jack, and as you bring that jack up, you can see that the pin is holding it in just like it's supposed to do. So get your jack up all the way, and then just to take it off, you're gonna pull the pin, slide that out of there, and there you go. One thing you're probably gonna wanna do is just blow this out to make sure you get all the metal chips and everything out of the area where you drilled. Get that cleaned out, and now you're ready to slide the jack back on. Put the pin in, and you are in action. One more optional note. I supply 2 shims that we put on in between the bolt and the spacer. If you find this being a little too loose, you can remove one of the shims and we'll make that a much tighter fit, although sometimes it's too tight to take it in and out, so you can play around with that if you want.